Hi, welcome to Stop Stigma, Start Healing, an Equitas Health podcast. In a world without stigma, we can ask for help, we can find comfort in community, we can heal together. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's Miles with today's episode.
So today's topic is, for lack of a better word, get the L out.
Did you make that up?
I mean, kind of. I had a little bit of help, but I'm pretty clever sometimes. Yeah, but had a little help from an L with that.
Good.
We were going to start a little support group, and then she left, so I took it.
Okay.
So get the L out. So for those listening, I am in the room with three awesome lesbian humans. I think lesbians. I think that's the word. That's changed. What they tell me. Is that what they tell you?
Yeah, lesbos.
Yeah,
lesbos.
Yeah.
Lesies.
Lesies cute.
is fine.
Yeah. Okay.
An old dyke. I'm an old dyke.
Hey.
Right? I love
that word.
Yeah. I used to be a baby dyke, but I don't think I am anymore.
I thought you were a gay woman.
Well, I am also a gay woman. I can be lots of things.
You're lots of things.
I'm a femme.
Okay.
Yeah, femme.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that today. I'm not butch, but I'm not femme. I'm granolbian. I'm a little crunchy.
And
A little crunchy.
Grenoblian.
Okay.
how about you?
I'm pretty butchy, you know.
You guys can't
There's
tell, but
not-
she's got these awesome tattoos all over her body.
She is a tattooed lesbo.
I've tried to be a little femmier at times, and I just never can pull it off. So I'd say butch.
Yeah.
Power tools, chainsaws, you know.
But you're a little pocket gay too, though. You're like teeny,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but tough, like tough
yeah.
as nails.
Yeah. Teeny.
Yeah.
Teenier the older I get.
Yeah, a little bit.
Shrinking.
It's a real
Kristen,
thing.
you're
yeah.
kind of like a lipstick lesbian.
You would think so, but I'm really like pretty aggressive. I'm an aggressive femme.
Oh, yeah, that I get.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But out of the three of these folks here, you are
Yeah,
more like...
I didn't know.
Yeah, well...
This is what I'm saying.
Actually, when I first met Kristen, I had no idea.
Yeah. And then I opened my mouth.
Yeah.
And then you were like, oh, that bitch is aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
That
Well,
is
no, I didn't
aggressive
know. I knew you
Leslie
were
right there.
aggressive. I didn't know you were a lesbian.
Yes. Most people don't know that. No, I'm one of those ones who like, you had to get a tattoo so people would hit on you, put a rainbow on my tits so that way.
Yeah.
In the grocery store, it's like,
There it is.
come get me.
So now we'll go into some intros. So if you would spend just a few moments, introduce yourself, your name, pronouns, what you want the folks at home listening to know about you. And I'm not going to say who goes first. I'm just going to let you go.
Well, y'all just looked at me, so. My name's Dina, and she, her, hers. Thanks. I am a social worker, a clinical social worker, psychotherapist. I am a non-biological mother of two. My beautiful wife had our babies. Yeah, good times.
Your wife?
My wife, yeah. I said wife, my beautiful wife.
No, I said you are a wife.
Oh, I am a wife.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just adding to your identity collection.
To my identity. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And good times.
Good.
Okay, I'll go next because everyone's looking at me. I am Kristen. I am a dental office manager. I am a mother of a soon-to-be 21-year-old, and I'm 38, so do that math. That's right, I started early. Get that shit over and done with.
Started and finished early.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm partying. I'm not. Let's see, what else? I am partnered. I have a girlfriend. We'll talk, Miles. Yep, I have a girlfriend. We've been together for almost 2.5 years or so, which is long for me. So that's good. Things are doing pretty good. That's that.
Good deal.
Awesome. Well, I'm Amy. She, her, and hers are my pronouns. Although a lot of people just call me sir in the hardware stores, especially in things. That's always been the case. My hair is very short, and it fools people. And I don't have big gazungas.
I do.
Yeah, I was noticing.
Yeah, we've
that.
noticed.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
And I am married and have been with my wife for probably 18 years or so. We married in 2015 as soon as the Supreme Court, that used to be a really cool thing here in this country, legalized gay marriage. And we live together in a little house with our cats, have no children. And I am retired as of April from working as a psychotherapist, social work degree. And I'm just trying to get into the swing of retirement after a long career. Looking forward to another year or so qualifying for Medicare. That's my excitement these days.
Retirement looks good on you.
Yeah, thank you.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
Great. Well, so welcome to Get the L Out. It's part of Stop Stigma, Start Healing. That's a lot to say.
You're doing your job.
Thank you very much. So if I'd like to hear a little bit more about your herstory.
Oh,
See what I did there?
I did see that.
Your
yeah.
herstory.
You are so cool.
Talk a little bit, if you wouldn't, share what you're comfortable with, realizing that this is going out to the far-reaching corners of Bucyrus.
Yeah.
And beyond, because this is going to be broadcast just to the state lines, and that's it.
Okay.
Tell us about your coming out experience.
You go first this time.
Okay, well, this is Amy. That's, at first I was like, whoa, that's a long time ago to remember.
Yeah, we have an hour to
How long
in
do
the
we
studio.
have? But it was October of 1978.
Oh, wow.
And I was 20.
remember
I don't remember that.
What the
It was, Stonewall riots had just happened not that long before.
Gotcha.
I did not know what a lesbian was or what gay was or anything until one day I had just tried one more time of trying to make it work with a man. And it was
Preach.
just not working. And I was just in my dorm at college. And I was brushing my teeth, looking in the mirror, whatever. And I was like, something just hit me. It's that radical. And I just looked in the mirror and I said, I'm a lesbian. And it was like, I just suddenly knew it. And then it was just really a trip. And then I had to figure out, well, then how do you be one of those? It was not cool to be one of those. It was very secretive. I was in a small town in Kentucky. And, I couldn't just go shout it from the rooftops and celebrate with people. It was dangerous. Yeah. Honestly, it was dangerous. Things were underground. You had to know the code words. You had to know the little things in your attire to wear to cue other people that you were a lesbian, and where to look to find the information of where the secret hidden parties would be so that you wouldn't get raided by police.
Right.
I know
Were there
you're-
a lot. I mean, I'm wondering, like in Kentucky, did you have to travel far?
No. There were always parties in little apartments stashed here and
Okay.
there, and you just had to know the people who knew the people to get you pointed in the right direction and know to let you in. And so that's where I came out. And shortly after that, my parents had been kind of figuring some things out when I took a girlfriend home over a break once. And and when I finally said, yes, I am gay, which is the word I used then, I'm pretty sure, they disowned me. And that was kind of a big turning point. It was not an uncommon experience then for people coming out either. So it was the time of, okay, I've got to find an alternative family. So it was all about reaching out and finding a community of people that would be my surrogate family, and just sort of kind of rebuild a sense of identity with these other people, with my family more on a periphery than central. So it was a very hard time, I will say. It was exciting in a lot of ways because I was so excited and happy to know why I'd always felt so different and why things didn't work with men and why I wasn't like the other girls and didn't, all of that stuff. My whole life made sense. my old Aunt Martha and Aunt Ruth made sense too. They always came to holiday dinners together and
Those
lived
old
together.
maids.
Those old maids, yeah.
Best
It's
friends. Best friends.
They were just close all their lives and buried together after their 50 years together. But so that was my coming out, and my world changed radically. So people, wrote me off right and left, and yet I started finding new people and new communities and new ways of engaging with myself and with the world. So,
Wow.
That's awesome.
Stuff I didn't know.
yeah,
Thanks for sharing that.
sure.
I didn't know you were in Kentucky.
I was at Morehead State University.
Oh. Did you say Moorhead?
Morehead.
Just making sure I heard
But
that
there,
right.
and I tried Morehead.
I too gave it the college
It's just-
try.
Yeah, it was.
no.
And then I got to where it's like, no, less head. less head.
I need to go to Lesbian University.
Yeah.
So
lesbians.
raunchy. Lesbians are
Poor
raunchy.
Rizzo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It ended my military career too. It was going to happen. I went to my commanding officer because I had been in reserves,
you had already been- oh, okay.
ROTC in reserves, and told him I was a lesbian and I wanted out because I didn't want to live in fear of them finding out and getting kicked out in disgrace or whatever. So that's okay,
Yeah.
grenades, guns.
Yeah.
But ROTC, were you active? Like, was it like dishonorable discharge sort of thing, or you just didn't go fully into the
I had signed a contract with a reserve unit, which they had allowed us to do at that point. So I
Okay.
was never full-time active
Okay.
duty.
because that was a thing too, right? Like, you wouldn't just not be in the military anymore. You would be dishonorably discharged,
Right.
which
Seriously.
has a
Follow you.
significant
Yeah, that would
impact
follow you.
in your life.
Yeah, there would be lots of repercussions. So,
Wow. Well,
You want to
all
go
right.
next?
Sure. I like being in the middle. You better stop flirting with me.
You got two married women around here. This
She's
is our
old, but
opportunity.
I know that's right. Okay, Kristen again. Coming out. I just remember being super very into. So I was very into the basketball team. Like, whatever game they had going, I would break my neck to get there. So I just knew that I really liked to see the girls play basketball. And I did not want to be a cheerleader. I wasn't that femme at all. I just wanted to watch. My coming out is kind of weird. Like at the time, I was kind of going through a bunch of stuff. I was pretty young. I think I was maybe like 15. 14 probably. My grandmother was in the hospital. I remember her being in the hospital. My dad had came, and I was raised by my grandmother, so like that was my rock there in the hospital. And then I remember walking down Chestnut Street in Philly with my dad, and like he turned his head to look at somebody, and I did too. And it was that like eye contact, and he was like, and I'm like, Dad, I gotta tell you something. He was like, I already know. And I'm like, what do you already know? Because I didn't even know. All I knew, I didn't know I was a lesbian. I didn't know I was gay. I knew that I liked looking at girls. And so I needed to figure that out. Yeah. And he was like, I knew you was gay. And then I'm like, gay? No, that's for like white boys. Like, I'm not gay. That's what I knew.
I wish you wouldn't have said that out loud, but okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I've just been fighting Miles' stigma against me being a gay woman.
No, you can definitely be a gay
Thank
woman.
you. I appreciate
14-year-old
validation.
brain me
Yeah.
in
Right.
1990 something.
Right.
My brain said,
Absolutely.
gay goes for white men.
Yeah.
That's what that's for. So
Yeah.
I don't know why my dad said that. And then, you know,
It was a universal word, really, at the time.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just anybody, you know, and so, and which again went to other stigmas, which now I'm like, wait, gay, so that I can get, You know, I can get HIV. Like it was 14-year-old me. I had no idea. But that is my coming out story, and it has prolonged almost been this. It's been the same thing for my family. My dad, cool with it. He doesn't care. He's my dad. He didn't raise me for sure, you know, so he didn't really too much care. But my grandmother and my rest of my family are pretty big church folk. And so you know, my grandmother passed, I think, before I could even tell her. And then my one aunt that I'm very, very close to, she's still to this day, oh, I see you got a new friend. Or, this is my girlfriend. Oh, okay. Well, how long y'all been friends? Or when you gonna find you a good man? You know, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it is what it is. I that's my aunt. I love her to death, and she ain't changing, and neither am I. So
There you go.
that's my story.
Dina here. So when first I think about coming out, I think about my parents. And my mom, I must have been telling her a story of some sort. We were headed to Mom's Weekend at OU. And we had just gotten Sonic hamburgers, and we were like driving down 33 through Nelsonville. And I was telling her some stories, and she just looked at me and she said, "Are you telling me you're gay?" And I thought I was going to choke on my hamburger, and I immediately got like, "No, like, why would you say that?" I got real flustered. And then probably, I don't know, a few months later, I was like, "Oh, yeah, no, that is what that is." And so I realized my senior year of college, and I told them probably a year later, and I told my mom, thinking that she was going to take care of it because she loved my gay friend. And she has gay friends and all this other stuff. But that's not how it went. She said, "You're going to have to tell your dad. I'm not going to tell him. You need to stay here and tell your dad." I was like, oh God, he's not the one I want to talk to. And then he came home, and they sent my sister was little, like 12 maybe. They sent her to like go to bed, and then I started kind of beating around the bush in terms of like, so I have this thing I need to tell you. And he said, I don't even think I said that I was gay or anything. He said, "I had hoped you would never say that to me." And I was like, "So you knew?" And he was like, "Of course." And I was like, fuck you guys. Like, I was the only one that didn't know. When I told my uncle, he was like, "Well, yeah." And I was like, oh my God, I hate you all so much. But yeah, I truly didn't know it was an option. I had very stereotypical ideas of what lesbians were, and I did not identify like that. So even when I first had my first girlfriends, I was like, well, I'm not a lesbian. Like, I'm not a lesbian. I just have a girlfriend. And so I remember my mom forbade me from telling my grandmother, who was my best friend. And one day, I spent a lot of time with my grandma, and I was taking her to, I don't know, shopping scenes or something really neat. And I was helping her put on her shoes, and she said to me, "Do you like girls?" And I like didn't even look up. And she's like girls. And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I was like, tied her shoe and like got in the car. And she said, "You're going to feel better if you tell me." And I said, "I don't feel very good right now." And so without even like making eye contact with her, I just confirmed. And she just put her hand on my leg and said, "See, doesn't that feel better?" And I was like, oh my God, it does feel better. So that was my grandma really stepping up, which was very cool. She ended up like selling my now wife and I, like, her house went on this tiny Italian street, right, where there was one Italian lady in each house, and then Beth and me. Like, yeah. And then babies started showing up, and all these little Italian ladies were like, "Oh, that's so sweet." I have no idea if they knew anything that was going on, but it was very sweet. I will always appreciate Grandma for that.
Grandmas are the best.
They are.
Mine was a saving grace. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder what mine would have thought. Like, my grandmother, you think I'm a bit much with my mouth. She was even worse, and I see her in me every day. Mm-hmm. But the way she would talk about, real quick, and I won't take up too much time,
you're good.
but my grandfather's son actually was gay, and this is not my, so anyway, it's my step grandfather, if that makes sense. Okay. So his son actually is gay, and he unfortunately got kind of out there in the horrible, tough Philly streets. And we would be driving through the park sometimes, and we would see him out there doing his thing. And he eventually did get HIV, and he succumbed to it. And so the words that would come out of my grandfather and grandmother's mouth about gay people was never good things.
Right.
And so I do wonder, though, like, I've never heard the word lesbian at that time. Mm-hmm. So I was always wondering, like, I wonder what she would have thought about me. You know, would they... Now, my grandfather did. He's still alive, and he's, you know, I told him, and his words were, "I already thought that." It was, so I feel like my grandmother, and, you know, would have been cool with it, but you know, my grandfather, I took a girlfriend to his house once, and he was cool. He passed me a joint, and you know,
That is cool.
yeah, my grandfather's
Yeah.
great. He's got dementia now, but he's still great. He still smokes. He knows where they are, too.
Well, yeah.
In his pocket. Anyway.
Good for him.
So, Amy, you started to talk a little bit about, and if you want to expand on that, and you too as well, about your involvement or seeking out like community as sort of like a chosen family. What was that like, and what is that like for you now today? Like, what has changed about that? And that's really something for all three of you. Like, you know, I'm assuming you two connected with community at some level, and what was that like initially, and what is that like for you today?
For me, initially, there wasn't much to connect with in Kentucky, but after I transferred to University of Cincinnati and got a place near the university in Clifton and Cincinnati, started connecting with women and finding people in my classes, and also there was a women's bookstore. Women spelled with a Y.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Crazy Ladies Bookstore.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it was
Crazy Ladies
Crazy
Bookstore?
Ladies Bookstore
I love it.
on Ludlow Avenue. And so there were all kinds of things going on there all the time, and activities and groups and political action and introductions to women's music. And so I, you know, all of the 80s and 90s, I only listened to women's music. And so there's a whole bunch of regular popular music I know nothing about from that time because I was not going to support the man. And we were going to bring down the patriarchy.
With
and
Holly Near Music.
Holly Near Music and Alex Dobkin and, you know, Chris Williamson and Meg Christian. And I was actually, my family had to get over this whole thing kind of quickly because I was involved in organizing the first gay pride march in Cincinnati, and marching in the first gay pride march in Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And then getting interviewed for the Cincinnati Post and Times Star, reporting on the first gay pride parade in Cincinnati. And so that was interesting and empowering. It really was empowering and a little scary. Always a little scary. Always looking over your shoulder. But getting involved in anti-nuclear stuff and just other kind of things that radical lesbian feminist separatists were into. And that was kind of the mentality. It was this separatism thing, and how we would all just go find land and buy it and live together and yada yada. And, lots of working on social justice issues, equality for people of color, women, gay, lesbian. Didn't really know much about trans folk then, and bisexuals were generally suspect. It's bad. You're not really a lesbian if you even look at a man, And it was just pretty rigid. But in terms of self-preservation, at the time, that makes sense looking back at it. And so, connected with a lot of people. I think that kind of, different kind of family from community connection was important to me for decades. I'm trying to think of, and I think the more being gay was accepted, even though it goes back and forth all the time, that connection to that community became less vital, less important, but still very important and nourishing in terms of just being around people that get you, So I don't really have that much of a connection to much of a gay community anymore. I'm just a person more now. And that's evolved a lot over my life, from 20 to 64. But it saved my life back when I first came out, for sure. I'm very grateful to have had those connections.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. It's funny, like you just said, now your community has gone down. It's more just about being a person. And I try to explain that to my kid all the time. She's like, Mom, there's this new trans girl at our job and it's so cool. And I'm like, she's just a person. She's just a person. Like, if you want to befriend her and do that because she's a cool person, not just because of these things. And I think a lot of the times, especially now, when these younger kids is coming out, it's like, or not even coming out, like just younger people in general is like, they like people for their sexuality or for who, not for them just as a person. But anyway, let's go back to community. So there was no community for me for a long time. There was no family for me. Like I sadly enough, I kind of grew up alone. After my grandmother passed, I kind of just started doing my own thing. I didn't deal with family. I wasn't, their perfect Bible child. And so for the most part, I just kind of lived my own life pretty much from about 14, 15. And I did play, like I had no guidance. So there was this, am I supposed to be with guys? Am I supposed to be with girls? Like, what am I supposed to do? And so that went back and forth and back and forth. Just to give you a little bit of my history, I was a complete stripper at 15 years old. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we're not going down today. But, so there was so much unknown in my brain, probably up until I can say, so technically I was a bisexual up until I was probably about 20, 21. Yep. So, having my child kind of early, and having no community there just kind of put me in my own little bubble. But right around when my kids started going to school and I had a little bit of free time, I would go and I'm gonna just show up at this lesbian bar and see what happens in Virginia Beach. So now I'm from Philly, moved to Virginia Beach, and it's like, okay. not really my type of girl in here. So, you know, then you go to, you meet one random person there and they're like, oh no, you should go to so-and-so. And then you go to that place and you find a couple of community there. And then I also found a lot of community through people I dated. So like you date one person who knows 5 people, and then those 5 people know 15 people. And then that's kind of how my community evolved. But I definitely see myself now. And then also through work. The most I've ever been involved with the community, with protesting, with caring about rights and stuff like that. I just wanted to be a person. But then I worked for a specific place, and you know, for the first time ever, I was like, damn, I really do. I can have a voice. I can influence others. I can help others who may have been in that space that I was in. And so that was the coolest thing ever. It really was. And then now I just want to be a person. I don't want to show my tit tattoo of a rainbow heart anymore. I just want to be a person, you know? So now my community is about still very much the people and the people I date and who they know and that kind of thing. I like a small community.
Yeah.
Especially at this age. Yeah.
I'm over here thinking about it, and I don't know that I ever cultivated a community. Other than I had a girlfriend who was very out and very engaged with everyone. And at the time she was in college, and so there was a organization at OU, and we would go and be around people, and that, you know, I got a lot of friends that way. But when that relationship ended, all of those connections severed as well. And so then something? Yeah, like my best friend at the time was gay, and so it was just the two of us. And you know, we wanted to find some gay friends. So at the time there was Out in Columbus. It was a online thing, and I was going through and these pictures that was just like half naked pictures and just way too many people I went to high school with, and I was like, what the hell is happening? And then
come out of the hills of Southern Ohio.
I was like, oh my good God. And then I saw one person who had a beer in her hand and a beanie on her head. And at the time I was very big into those hats. And I was like, she looks like me. Like, we could be friends. And we've been married together for 15 years now. And neither of us really have any gay specific friends. Like, back to work, like, I'm just thinking about, and we just had this conversation at work, how when I started there a decade ago, it was so gay. It was so gay. I had never been. Yeah. And I had come from Columbus AIDS Task Force, right? Like, was a pretty gay place. And
it was a lesbian shop.
It was. There were so many gay people at that job, the job I have now, and now I think I'm like one of two. Like, I am the older, wiser lesbian now. That's a weird thing.
Isn't that something?
That's a weird thing to be. But even my little ones, they've gone now too. Like, they're not there anymore, and so it's super gay friendly, right? Like, I don't feel strange in any way, and I out myself all the time at work to my patients, and I just talk about my wife and just that person thing, and I get a lot of feedback from patients that it's really nice to just it isn't this huge coming out thing. It's just I'm talking about my partner the way anyone else would. But my wife and I, we before kids, we would say, let's go get our gay on. And so we would go to First Fridays, or we would, go to Slammers, or, we'd go to these places, and it was like we just like went in for a little bit and then we left again. And right now I'm thinking about, when I think about my community, they're all straight. Like, no, I mean, it wasn't on purpose so much, but you know, we had kids, and then those are the people that we ended up surrounding ourselves with from schools or whatever else. But
Yeah. It's like we all hide as we get older. We just kind of
Blend in.
Is it the older we get, the more comfortable we get in our identity, and the less we need those external validations of
for me, I think
to
it's
get in
that.
your gay on. It's like,
Yeah.
I get my gay on every day. I get in and out of the shower.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think that's way closer. And now it's beautiful because my kids, you know, my daughter tells me, both of my daughters have told me, the women that kids in their class that they're going to marry, and you know, they're girls, and I'm going to marry so and so, and we're going to do this and that, and then next day they're like, well, I don't know, I kind of like him, and so now I'm going to marry him. And it just, I love that they don't even even question it. It's just like, sure,
That's cool.
yeah.
We definitely didn't get that.
I didn't get that either.
Playing house, I remember playing house, and I'm like, my best friend Vita, I was like, Vita, you could be my wife. And then and soon as, you know, an adult around us would be like, she can't be your wife, you know, they would stop it immediately. I'm like, oh, okay.
I always played that male character in
right?
every
Me too.
imagination.
Me too, with lipstick and all.
Always.
I'd be sitting there playing with makeup, and then you're gonna be my wife.
Yeah.
She's just confused.
Turns out no.
Yeah, so let's earn our keep and
Okay, yeah,
talk a
about
little bit about healthcare.
healthcare.
I mean, no, I think all of this stuff is really important, and,
Right.
and I think these are stories that I think are important for people to hear. It's
Context.
it is context, and it's not Maury Povich. It's actually
Right.
3 people just living their lives, being human. So, but I would like to talk about healthcare, like what that has been like for you historically, what that's like now. Let's start with that, and then we can get into like the wish list.
Isn't it all the same though for us? Like, you know, you go to the same doctor that you've been going to for 6 years, and here he comes again. So, Kristen, what birth control are you? None, sir. None. For the 80th time, none. I don't need any. And why is that? Are you not sexually active? Oh, yes, I am. Very much so. But I don't need birth control because, again, I am a lesbian.
It's like it just goes in one ear and out the other, right?
Every time.
Yeah.
Every
But
time.
that right there, that's the question. It's usually for me with the nurse.
Yeah.
They'll ask me the birth control question. I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, why not? I'm like, because I have sex with my wife.
Right.
And they're like, oh. And each time I'm like, do you just put it in the
Can you
chart?
write that in there?
Just write it in the chart.
There's not a box for that.
There's
But
not
they,
a box.
but they write it. I see him write it. And
Right.
yet again,
But each time, and they like double take. I'm
yeah,
like,
they're all so confused.
I mean, but what if like there was a one-off?
Right.
You found that perfect man, and you weren't on birth control.
Even with that, oh my God, I can still get furious when I think about. I was going in for rotator cuff surgery, my first one, and I was in my 50s when this
do you
was
have to do a
happening.
pregnancy test?
Oh my.
Yeah.
That you had to pay for.
I had to, you know,
that I
there-
had
yeah,
to
we
pay
get
for.
billed for
Right.
this pregnancy test. I haven't had a period in a year. I'm postmenopausal. I haven't been near a penis since 1978.
It'd be a long journey.
And I'm trying to tell this woman,
Right.
Well, what do you mean?
How do you know?
How do you know?
What do you mean? How do I know?
How do I know? You know, they wouldn't listen, and
Right.
I was like, this is not the time when I can afford to have a big battle about this or walk out
Right.
angry.
Right.
I need this shoulder fixed. So,
Right.
but that kind of thing, yeah, and that it just goes over their head, or the system isn't designed to factor in
Yeah.
our lives.
Right.
Whether there's not a box to check for it, or they don't.
The
hear
medical
it.
record is putting a block that says,
Right.
well, you can't move forward until you test.
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
the system.
That's ridiculous.
And the nurse, I mean, the nurse probably didn't have any control over it. She had to do it. If you're
Right.
possibly childbearing age in your 50s, could be maybe, or some immaculate conception. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, the systems weren't designed for it. And that's more recent.
Yeah.
And I can certainly talk about in the 70s and 80s when it was more for me an issue of, having to answer those questions about birth control and this and that.
Right.
And do I say I'm a lesbian or I'm gay or not? Or do I just lie and say I'm not sexually active? I'm not planning on being sexually active.
Right.
Because you never knew how a person was going to treat you once they found out that you were gay because of the stigma. And so it was a real delicate situation to try to feel out who was safe to tell and who wasn't safe to tell. Now, in the past 25 or so years, I've had a gay male doctor.
Yeah.
And so that's been really easy. And my wife sees him too. And it's never an issue in that office. And it's easy. But earlier on, it wasn't.
Yeah. And I think I was thinking about this just, preparing for today. I've not ever really thought twice about it. And I feel very, grateful that we are at a place now where I don't think about it. People ask me, are you married? Yes. I have a wife. And, I just answer the questions. It's annoying, right? When they make me do a pregnancy test and I'm like, listen, I don't even have fallopian tubes anymore. Like, I am not pregnant, 100% not pregnant. And they, that's obnoxious, but it's not demean. I don't take, doesn't do anything to my identity. And I just think, even what you're sharing, Amy, like to not have to think about it is refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really only been the last 5-6 years. I did find a place that I could say that once and not ever have to say it again.
Yeah.
And that felt good, No, I don't want to pee in your cup. It's the emergency room visits and it's the urgent care visits that get me. Those are the ones where they just, everything you say. I'm like, did you even hear why I'm here? Like, I am here because of pink eye. Like, why am I peeing in the cup? But it's because the medication I'm not pregnant, And then also, lesbians go through some things, right? Because probably about 3 years ago, I was like, okay, my kid is darn near grown. I'm still young. I think I want to try. I think I want to try to have a kid. And then, it gets to the point where you're saying things like, I kind of lost my train of thought. Too much weed, sorry. But when you start to try and you say, oh, not yet, or you say things like that, and they're like, not yet, what does that mean? I'm like, well, I'm trying. How are you trying? In what way are you trying? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I'm using a test tube and whether I'm using a turkey baster. It doesn't matter if I'm at your urgent care for this pink eye. Like, just give me some goop to put in my eye. So I don't know. It's like you can't change it, and you can. Like if today I wanted to go to my regular doctor and say, I think I want to try for a pregnancy test. Can we take a pregnancy test? There's no, when did you decide that you were going to do that? That kind of thing. Like, what birth control are you using? I'm an adult. I'm damn near 40. Like, this is all I'm asking you to do. So there's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something.
I was thinking about that. So I had a procedure done when my mother died of ovarian cancer to hopefully prevent that from being the case for me. And that procedure really was tying your tubes, right? But then taking them out. And I remember being nervous that maybe my record did say I was a lesbian. And like, why would a lesbian need to have her tubes tied? You know what I mean? I remember like saying to the doctor, like, is this is this gonna be weird? Like, what's gonna? But thinking about it, and I am on birth control, and so I do talk. They're like, "What kind of birth control are you on?" And I almost feel like I'm like, "Well, I'm on this one, but it's not for pregnancy."
You
know
have
what
to
I mean?
say that. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and it's
You
like,
feel
why
like
do I feel like I need to say that, like to prove, like I'm serious, seriously,
I'm a real
lesbian.
lesbian, for sure.
I'm taking it for something else. But there is that piece of like, it's nice that I can just fill my birth control prescription and people don't think twice
Yeah, I thought
about
she
it
was a
either.
lesbian.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. There's this like incognito
For sure.
aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was getting to before my brain went blank. Sorry. But yeah, it is that thing. It is that, I knew what I needed to do. And I'm grateful that I know that, what I needed to do in order to make this happen if I, wanted to try.
Right.
And it was no question from my primary care doctor. But, everybody doesn't get that experience, and that sucks. It really sucks.
Amy, you mentioned, and I didn't want to jump in at that time, but you mentioned talking potentially what it would have been like to talk to your doctor back in the 70s and use the words, lesbian or gay. And I thought about even the psychological diagnostic extra burdens that came with that. That the way that the medical field looked at us. I mean, they were, it was a mental illness.
Right.
So would that impact your health insurance or
Right.
your ability to join the military or to have kids?
Yep.
If you carried this
Yep.
diagnosis of sexual deviant.
That was a thing. And I, didn't share it for a long time.
Yeah.
Until after the military was already a done deal. And I wasn't worried about a lot of those other things. Maybe should have been. There were a lot of times it wasn't even necessary to bring it up. But one aspect of bringing it up, then and more since, when I'd been in relationships, committed long-term relationships, just the whole medical thing of having my partner be considered a valid agent of my care and part of my healthcare team, and able to get my information and share that and be present when I wanted her to be present and not have to fight about that.
Right.
And I don't know, I haven't had that kind of experience in a long time. In my current relationship, never has that ever been an issue. Even before we were legally married.
As I say, you're married now,
Yeah,
so it can't
right.
be.
But we always-
I guess they can still make it an issue.
They can try, yeah. We always have had a medical power of attorney and all that. But decades ago, that was like your partner would not be allowed in or to be
Right.
part of your care, and that was a horrible thing. It really was. Very, very scary and alone when you want that person there,
Right.
when something serious was going on. Yeah. And the stigma of having this, sharing with them and being considered sexually deviant.
Yeah. I wonder for you two as parents, like, how did that play out? Was there ever any concerns like, could it, you being a lesbian, be used against you in any sort of way, that might jeopardize you having custody of your kids?
Yeah, I mean, there are these horror stories. I learned vicariously, right, through the trials of others. And so as we were having children, we used a known donor. And so there was that piece of it that that added. So we did donor agreements, and, we had every legal piece of paper that could be there. And when we were going through the court things, because I did a co-custody agreement before we could get married, in order to be able to make medical decisions and things like that for the kids. When my wife is doing these testimonies to what a great parent I am, I'm just thinking wow, she's got a lot of power right now. Luckily, right, she's using it to advocate for me, right? But I'm like, oh, I could see how vulnerable I am in this scenario. And even the judge at the very first co-custody hearing that we went to, it was my turn, but then they brought somebody in handcuffs and orange jumpsuit and everything else, and he wasn't paying his child support, and she sent him to jail. And when I walked up there, hi, Your Honor, and she was like, did you see that? And I was like, uh-huh. She's like, you can walk out right now and spend as much or as little money as you want on this kid, but if you leave here after doing this, you are going to be responsible like that. And she was like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes. And then she immediately, as soon as we did it, she thanked me. She was like, after, one extreme to the other, thank you for being willing to take on a responsibility, right? That isn't necessarily, you don't have to take on. But there was that there was some nervousness, and being able to adopt the girls, like legally adopt them, is actually what sparked us getting married when we did, right? So it was like as soon as we could, we got married, because we had to be married for a year before I could do a step parent adoption, is what we technically did. And so once that was in place, right, I have birth certificates with my name on it and things like that. I no longer have any of that concern, but that took a long time. That took a really long time to get to that place.
Repairing the Rainbow is a support group for LGBTQ plus folks who have experienced violence or abuse in a romantic relationship. Find community and strength in a safe space. We meet online every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in and learn more about all of our support groups and services at equitashealth.com/starthealing.
That seems like a whole legal podcast.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
Like how many straight people get together and
God.
go through all of those hoops to co-parent. It's a lot. And the fact that I think of, I know you managed it well, and you and your wife did very well.
Best case
but
scenario.
the fact that your wife, soon to be wife at that point, had to go in front of the judge and essentially ask for permission for you to be these girls' parent that you had been since the day they came out of her body.
Absolutely.
But she still had to go and ask permission.
I had to have a social worker come to the house. I had to have a social worker come to the house and do a home visit. And I was so nervous. I'm like, I am a social worker. I know that this is a safe house. They've been here the whole time. But it was just this nervousness.
Yeah.
And luckily she was so kind. And she was like, I'm sorry that I have to be here. And I'm sorry that you have to go through this. I know these babies are your babies. And she was very great, which was very cool, because they had put themselves in the dog kennel. When I went to open the door,
The kids did.
we went into the kitchen and they are in the kennel, and I just look at the woman and I said, I swear to God, I didn't put them in there. And then she just laughed, and they were just playing in there, and I was like, oh my God, of all the things, they put themselves in the kennel.
Good.
Yeah.
Darn kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't even remember what the question was, but
About being a parent.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my kid has been my kid for forever, she, I'm a lot like my father. My father was a Rolling Stone, and
Not in the band.
Miles,
Dad
I
joke.
miss you.
The Rolling Stones was a musical group from
From the 50s or something?
I think so.
Oh,
Gotcha.
yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you
All
for
right.
that. Thank you.
Anyway, no, I just, I could never settle. So I've always had girlfriends, so I never really thought about, it's a little deep too, but I also don't trust people with my kid, because people should have not trusted people with me.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so I've just been very protective over my kids. So I'll have a girlfriend, for 6 months, and then another girlfriend for a year, but never truly allowed anybody to get super close to us. So she's just been my baby. I didn't quite realize the legal mess, but like I wanted to take my daughter to Mexico or something, out of the country. And, you know, I looked up some things. I saw that I had to have her father's permission, who was not truly a sperm donor, not in your situation.
Right.
But, you know, he was just a sperm donor child. So, and I had to have his permission because I never legally went to get full custody. The fuck is that? What do you mean? I have bought her every diaper, every wipe, everything. I have bought her everything that she's ever had in her entire life, and I've received 2 cents from him.
Right.
And I need his permission to take her out of the country. And so I called this fool, and he says, well, why you want to take her out of the country?
Oh, hell no.
Because she deserves it. Because she's a great kid, and she got, you know, honor society and whatever else. And so that was my only legal things that I tried to get. And then also I try to get, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you try to get on Medicaid while you're pregnant and while you have a kid, they will make you take a paternity test.
Yeah.
So I'm already dealing with a deadbeat who's like, that ain't my baby. And I'm like, bro, it's yours. She looks just like you. My kid looks nothing like me.
This is true.
What are you talking about? So, yeah, I had to take I think she was like probably less than 1 year old at that point, somewhere where they can swab her mouth. And they swabbed his mouth, and then they sent me yes, it is his child, 99.99. Now it might be Mari, I don't know. But, but yeah, so that I had to deal with that. I'm really close to my girlfriend now. Like, we're really tight. She's awesome. And she is the one for sure. But now I'm so grateful that she's 20 and I don't have to go through that.
Right.
You know, like she's old. Like if she likes you, great. If you don't like her, it's that kind of thing. Like that's your kid. You want her to be your mama? Okay, that's your mama too.
Right.
And that's just what it is. But as I was thinking about having another child, I was like, I think I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to make her mine. I'm not going to share.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with all the legalities. Black people don't like courts. We don't like police. We don't like none of that shit. So I wasn't about to deal with any of it if I absolutely did not have to.
Right.
And that may suck for my partner or wife or whatever I decide to do. And that may suck. And I get that. And even now, my girlfriend and she's talking about maybe getting pregnant because I tried and I'm done and I'm not trying no more. But she's talking about it. And I would just leave all that shit out of it for me. You know, I don't want to deal with it. I'll be there. I promise you. And that's what we're going to have to live on. Because I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah.
Power to you, baby.
Going through the pregnancy stuff in the medical system was interesting.
Really?
Yeah, because part of what made the donor agreement legal is you had to go through a doctor. So the whole turkey baster thing was off the table.
Oh my goodness.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
We didn't, not even IVF, but intrauterine insemination, IUI, right? It was very expensive. And luckily, my wife gets pregnant the first time, like... She must be very fertile. But so when she was trying, it was very quick. But when I was trying, I tried for a year and I could get pregnant, couldn't stay pregnant. And we just go back and forth and it was up and down and so much money. And finally we found our primary care physician would do it for like $50 a pop. I know. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like that's so much better. But then finally I was like, I'm done with this. This is too much up and down.
It is a lot.
Too much up and down. I'd get so excited and then I'd get so disappointed. And I'm like,
Yeah, it definitely killed my psyche. I could not. Nope.
So as we end our time together, I'll ask the magic wand question. If you could change something about the healthcare system to be more responsive to the needs of lesbians, gay women, queer women, what would that be? What do you think?
Insurance would not be linked to your employment.
Okay.
Or your sexuality or your gender or take politics out of this shit. Take your beliefs out of it. Doctor so-and-so,
Right.
nurse so-and-so.
Pharmacist so and so. Your belief system shouldn't have anything to do with whether or not you can fill my prescription.
Yep.
You got anything?
Amy?
I have trouble with this one because I don't have any barriers that I in my medical experience right now, or things that are get in the way of anything. My healthcare providers, whether it's mental health, physical health, are all very good people I've found and kept over the years, and so, but. I just, I think it's more about just the individuals that work in healthcare having compassion, having awareness, having
Right.
good training and diversity, and
Giving a shit.
yeah, yeah,
That's
and
nice.
really listening and yeah.
So finding the right provider. That it sounds
Oh,
like if you can find
yeah.
one that is competent
Absolutely.
and understands. I heard that actually from all of you.
It's a
like
huge
when
change
you
in
know,
life.
when they know, it's good.
Absolutely.
It's
Right.
actually pretty good care.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a lesbian, whether you're it doesn't. My daughter, like here I go on a rant. Tell me to shut up. But anyway, like I got my period at 10, right? My mother got her period at 10. When my daughter turned 10 and 11 and 12, and I'm like, what is going on? Something is wrong. Go to this old white man and he says she's fine. Oh, also, she wore a 6T until she was 12. She was tiny.
Yeah.
Man tells me nothing's wrong with her. You got to feed her. You're not feeding her properly. You got to give her Ensure. I'm a horrible parent. I'm not feeding my freaking kid.
Right.
And you got to give her Pediasure. Give her some stuff to make her grow. Feed her more vegetables. For 4 years, he told me that. So when she turned 16 and she still didn't have a period, and she was still like wearing a size 0, I'm like, there is something wrong. And I finally went to a doctor who said, this little Indian lady comes in and she's like, I think I know what it is. And she diagnoses her with Turner syndrome. Like she didn't grow because she can't grow. She's not going to have kids now because by this time, all her eggs are gone. So I could have frozen those eggs had it been caught.
Right.
All of these things, and now she's on birth control, not because of,
I know.
but it was needed. And so if they just listen, like we're parents to these kids for years. You've known them for 5 minutes. Same with us. Just listen. Just listen to us.
Right.
Well, thank you all for your time, for coming out here to the burbs.
We came out.
You did. You came
did.
out.
We
The
came
elves
right out,
came
didn't
out.
we?
Yeah.
I really appreciate everything that you shared tonight, and I look forward to always staying in touch with you all and maybe having you back for more discussions. I
Yeah.
thought of a lot of things
I
tonight.
like this.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Let's
cool.
talk more.
Wasn't that bad,
I
was
like
it?
it.
Can
Yeah.
we drink and
Yeah.
smoke as well?
I
we
mean,
do that?
we could probably have cocktails. Probably not smoking. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is it for the episode Get the L Out. So stay tuned for other episodes of Stop Stigma, Start Healing. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Stop Stigma, Start Healing, and for joining us on the journey towards stigma-free and LGBTQ+ affirming healthcare. Learn more about all of our support groups and services at equitashealth.com/starthealing. We'll see you next time.